It's been a little over a month since the release of the Master Collection Volume 1, and I've been spending plenty of time with it. I've already done a video of my initial thoughts from when I first got the game, but now I have had much more time to go over things and really think about how I feel about it, and specifically the Nintendo Switch version of it. I'm going to break down my review into 3 distinct sections. What is included in the collection, how the games actually play, and what shortcomings or positive additions there are. I won't be reviewing the games as games like I have done with Acid or Ghost Babel, so no discussion about characters, story, pacing, gameplay, etc. It'll be more a look at performance and accessibility, as I've said, with a distinct look at the collection on Switch. So let's start with section 1. What is included? Contrary to what a lot of people online have been saying, the Master Collection is not just the Legacy Collection from PlayStation 3 repackaged. Firstly, there is no Peace Walker or Metal Gear Solid 4, but what we get game-wise is the following. Metal Gear Solid 1, 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the HD versions, so they don't include the skateboarding game from Metal Gear Solid 2 Subsistence or Snake vs Monkey from Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence due to licensing issues. This is understandable, and the skateboarding is awful, so no great loss. More concerning is the fact that the boss survival mode is missing from these, and there's no real reason as to why. Although not an essential feature, it is a shame this was removed, and as Konami didn't make any changes, they are still missing here. On the plus side, with Metal Gear Solid, we do get all the versions of that, including the separate VR missions, special missions, and the Japanese-only release Integral. These are all nicely grouped in the Metal Gear Solid launcher. Away from these 3 games, we also get the MSX games Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 that were part of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. They are now separated out to their own launcher. Then we have the bonus content, which houses the NES games Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge, as well as the digital graphic novels for Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and some songs from the saga's soundtrack. Now, these separate launchers seem to have annoyed a lot of people who have reviewed the collection, especially PC players. They want everything in one single place. Personally, I quite like the separation, and I would have even gone one further and had the NES games on their own separate launcher away from everything else with the bonus content. But the really great addition that makes this a collection and not just a list of old games is the screenplay book, a full script for each game including all the codec calls, and the master book. This is a digital manual or Bible of sorts, explaining characters and events throughout the series, and there are even references to games not included in Volume 1. So surely this means that a Volume 2 at least is on its way. The pictures, graphics, pop-out text sections all help flesh out the Metal Gear world and are fascinating to look through. Each has a spoiler warning, but most who buy this collection will have extensive knowledge of the wider timeline, so can enjoy these documents to their heart's content. However, if any new players are picking up the Master Collection, then this is a nice way for them to make sure that they play the games first before spoiling any of the major events that happen throughout the series. So looking at all of this, it truly is a one-stop shop for all things up to and including Metal Gear Solid 3, and the added bonus of the 2 NES games is a huge draw for non-US fans. Here's hoping other fringe games get added in future volumes. So how do the games actually play? Well, they're all good, and that's about it. They're all just ports of previous releases and have had nothing done to them. Again, a lot of people have been complaining at this, calling it a quick cash grab with little to no effort put in. Would I have preferred Konami to clean up the games? Yes. Do I think Metal Gear Solid 2 should be 60 frames per second on the Switch to match the PS5 and Xbox versions? Ideally, yes. Did I expect this? No. I knew way ahead of time what these games were going to be. I looked up the specs, I checked online to see what Konami was shipping. Some say they feel cheated, but how? You were given exactly what was sold to you. The other clue was in the naming, or lack of. At no point was this marketed as a remaster, and there was no mention of any upscaling. However, I've seen so many people refer to this Master Collection as some kind of remaster. It is not. It never has been, it was never going to be. If that's what you assumed, then that's on you. And it's also the reason that I bought the Switch version. These games could run on a phone. I don't need them running on a PlayStation 5. As I said in my initial thoughts video, I'm sure I could tell the difference if my version was side by side with a PS5 version. But just as is, it plays perfectly well. Not as maybe as smooth and crisp as people are claiming the DuckStation version is, but my alternative is the PS1 and PS2 versions. Now I have them all in one place, and I have them handheld should I wish to play them that way, which is what I wanted. I have a portable way to play the PS1 version of Metal Gear Solid. Thank you very much. So what shortcomings and positive additions are there? Well, firstly, the shortcomings. I mentioned that it doesn't really affect me, but Metal Gear Solid 2 not being 60 frames per second on Switch is not great. It was on the PlayStation 2, and the Switch has more power, so it should be possible. Maybe this is something that gets patched in later? Probably not, and even if it does, it should have been from launch really. The soundtrack provided in the bonus content is very limited and sort of locked away where it is. It's a bit of an inconvenience really. As I said before, no boss survival for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 is just stupid. There was no real excuse to remove them, and I feel they could have been put back in very, very easily. Also, the lack of a physical copy for Switch is just wrong. Even the case and cartridge only gives access to download data. So, what is the point of it really? You may as well just download it from the eStore, like I did. Overall, this is the only way that I feel that I was slightly cheated by Konami. It seemed, for all intents and purposes, that they were selling a physical copy of the game on Switch just like they were for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Hell, they're even going to be doing so for PlayStation 4 if that hasn't been released already. But what of the positive additions? Well, having all versions of Metal Gear Solid is very positive, and I can't wait to spend more time with Integral. Same for Snake's Revenge. Now that everyone has access to them, we should take advantage of them. Also, finally having access to Metal Gear Solid being handheld is awesome. And what with the Steam Deck seemingly still having issues running Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, not having those issues with the Switch, I feel completely vindicates my decision to buy it for that system. This was ultimately my main reason for buying the collection, and I'm very happy that I have not had my fingers burnt from that experience. Speaking of Metal Gear Solid, if you have been playing that, make sure you go to the Save Data Manager and add some Konami games to the memory card. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're welcome. And there we have it. Overall, there are some things missing that really should have been included. But generally, what is included is very good, work really well, and the fact that the games can be played handheld is a huge plus. Of course, if the handheld element for you was never an important thing, probably getting them on the Switch was not the way to go, and I'm sure you probably didn't. But anyone potentially on the fence thinking that the Switch version is a massive downgrade in any way, rest assured the Switch versions of these games are all perfectly serviceable and you will have hours and hours of fun with them. But what are your thoughts of the Master Collection? Did you also get it on the Switch? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. We are getting ever closer to the magical 1,000 subscribers, so any new additions are more than welcome, and I'm really hoping I can hit that target by Christmas. It will mean a hell of a lot. To anyone who is already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. It means a hell of a lot to me. All that's left is to say goodbye, and I shall see you again very soon. Goodbye.